to Real Estate Unleashed. I am your host, Regan Hildebrand with the Home Team Realty Group. You can find me on social media at Realtor Regan.
And I am Bridget Quinn. You can find me on social media, B Quinn Realtor.
Welcome back for part deux
Part deux?
of Real Estate Terminology 101.
I love saying part deux.
I know, it is fun. Little
shows
hot
our
shots. Yeah. Millennial, Gen Z, not Gen Z, millennial, Gen X humor.
Yes.
Right on the cusp.
Yes.
So for part two of Real Estate Terminology 101, we're going to kind of go through a little bit of some of the terminology that you can expect to hear when you're in that buying and selling process. Most importantly, kind of that contract process.
Yeah, I was about to say more so once you're in closing.
On the way to closing out and getting
Yes.
some keys.
Yes. And a lot of these terms are something I like to reiterate to my sellers, like in the listing appointment stage, just so that they start to hear them and become a little bit more familiar with them too.
Or on the buying side, just to kind of give people an idea. North Carolina, is a state with a little bit of oddities. If you're moving in,
Dare to be different.
Dare to be different, first in flight and last to change. That's our state motto. Should be on the license plates now.
If you know, you know.
You know. We have.
Oh gosh.
Decided in North Carolina that the rest of the country, when they talk about going into escrow, we're just going to call it being under contract.
Yeah.
So in many states, when you talk about getting the house you want, you talk about we're going to go into escrow. Well, in North Carolina, you don't hear that term. It's just in escrow. Okay, there's an escrow account, which we'll talk about.
Right.
But the big thing is to get under contract in North Carolina, you're going to have to pay at least one type of deposit in most cases.
Of good faith money.
Good faith money that goes towards your purchase price. It's not extra money. No. And the first one that usually gets talked about is earnest money deposit, which is held in that escrow account. That earnest money deposit in North Carolina is held usually by an attorney or third party. There are some situations where
It's supposed to be in a trust account.
In a trust account by maybe a real estate firm, but our firm and most others now don't hold that money.
Way too much liability.
They ask the escrow agent, which is that attorney in most cases, to hold that money in their trust account.
Right.
And it can be refunded during a due diligence period, which we'll also talk about. In North Carolina, this is only for North Carolina. Don't hold us to it if you're in any other state. But earnest money deposit tends to be kind of a nationwide thing. Most people will run into that piece, right?
Absolutely.
Again, it's just good faith money.
It's good faith money.
To show that you got some skin in the game, that you're not, trying to get under contract with nothing.
And what most people here in North Carolina, North Kakalaki, the good old state, we talk about due diligence funds or due diligence money.
The one with the most weight.
Yes. And that's the real skin in the game,
That
right?
is,
So what that is, it's additional money that you can put towards good faith money as a deposit almost to the seller that is paid directly to the seller, non-refundable no matter what happens. If you as a buyer decide to back out or, you go forward with that, that's paid directly to the seller.
Yeah, the only way that money is going to be returned to you as the buyer is if something was done outside of good faith by the seller, some other party, and that's going to have to be a very unusual circumstance.
Doesn't normally happen.
Somebody did something that maybe was criminal. The title it's not a clear title that can be passed to the buyer.
Right.
And those are that's a whole nother topic of what causes a title to not be clear.
Yeah.
Add that to the list of what causes a title not to be clear. But anyway, other than that, that due diligence fee, it's gone.
It's like basically paying the seller rent for taking the house off the market. It's kind of the easiest way that I like to describe it.
It's gone until closing day. Then it's credited back to you as the buyer on your closing disclosure, which shows all the money and then all that, or the HUD, sometimes people call it, which is, again, just that final document. Shows the breakdown of all the money. You're going to see a credit for that due diligence fee as long as you didn't back out.
Right.
But if you back out, yep, the seller keeps the money as skin in the game, compensation for time off market. We talked about in the last one, days on market. Well, it's time off market.
Right.
Now they got to go back to market and be back on there. So yeah, those two fees, skin in the game, good faith deposits that get you under contract.
Yep.
And it changes state to state, but in North Carolina, those are very typical. How much are they? It's negotiable.
And talk to your real estate agent or us about what's, what the current market shows for that is.
When I bought my first house, I paid $50 in earnest money and due diligence. Now it ballooned up in the last couple years into 5 figures. It's dropped back down. We see like maybe 0.5% of purchase price or maybe 1% of purchase price, but
Total
it's negotiable.
between the two, yeah.
Talk to your agent. It's going to really come down to the scenario that you're in.
Which, once you pay this and you get under contract, then it throws you into what we like to call the due diligence period.
Again, unique to North Carolina. North Carolina does not have any contingencies. And a contingency is just something that has to be cleared in order to get to closing and move on. Some states have contingencies for appraisals,
financing,
inspections, selling another house to clear it. No contingencies in North Carolina in the basic contract. So without a contingency, there's the due diligence period.
It's when you get your inspections, you have your appraisals, you get your surveys, you want to have anything looked at that home during that period.
And if something blows up on any of those, you walk away and you only lose the due diligence fee. But yeah, your due diligence period is a vital, vital period in North Carolina to get all your ducks in a row.
I will say that as a buyer, if you decide to cancel your contract after due diligence period ends, then you've now lost your earnest money deposit.
Yep. Earnest money deposit is only safe during that due diligence period. So you have to act quickly.
Yep.
How many days is a due diligence period? Well,
I've seen normally roughly 3 weeks or so. It just kind of depends on how much time is needed to get all of those things done.
Yep. If your loan officer tells you we can get the appraisal back in 10 business days and you've got inspectors lined up to do that work, yeah, maybe you're talking 2 weeks. But for most people, 3 weeks is usually sufficient. There might be surveys on large land that need 4 or 5 weeks. It's all factored in.
Right.
Sometimes to make a really strong offer, you might say 1 day or 0 days of due diligence period. It's all negotiable.
Right.
Yep. But once you are done with all that, then that earnest money is now in that escrow account that we're talking about.
Right.
And an escrow account is just like you said, it's a trust account.
Trust account.
Usually held by the attorney or the closing officer.
Holds the funds.
Holds that funds, keeps it, applies it at closing. But it's just an account that's between the two parties.
Right.
And your lender will set up a new escrow account for you in most cases if you have a traditional type of loan.
Right.
And that is holding like your tax payments, your HOA dues in some cases, your homeowner's insurance in some cases.
You have to prepay so much into that.
And then they will pay it out of that escrow account like magic.
Thank goodness, because I wouldn't remember to pay all of that.
Yeah, I remember one year my lender at the time forgot to pay my taxes, and I got the naughty letter in the mail. I was like, I don't know how to pay it.
That just made my eyes twitch.
Yeah. Thank goodness there was somebody who could make it right. But yeah, it's in an escrow account. You set up one either at the beginning of going under contract, and then another one's created for you by your loan. Magic. Yeah. All magic.
And then, as I said, we mentioned appraisal during that due diligence period itself. And the appraisal is just an appraiser comes out and says, hey, based on comps, kind of what we do, ourselves, I think this home is estimated to be this market value. And based on that appraisal, then it's, can you get a loan for that amount? So if the appraisal is higher than what you've put the offer in, you're good to go. If it's lower than what you've offered, well, now you can't get a loan because
the bank's only going to lend at that
appraised value.
There's sometimes wiggle room in there. It's part of the negotiation. But yeah, appraisal is just an opinion of value, done very much like a CMA that we do, but by a licensed appraiser.
Yep.
And then while they're doing all that, the attorney is doing a title search.
Yep.
Title search just means it's like we're saying, It'd be a whole nother video talking about that, where make sure that title can pass from these owners to these owners.
Yep.
Nothing to stop it.
Right.
That's all it is. And they get paid decent amount of money to do all that fancy legal work. We don't touch it.
Don't touch.
And then finally, talking about title, every state's a little different. You have some states that are attorney states, some states that are title states.
Mm-hmm. And you can guess which one we are.
We keep using the word attorney. We're an attorney state. It just means that we have attorneys that handle closings.
Right.
Title states, you might have a title company. Which is not, it doesn't have to be run by attorneys at all.
Right.
It's just people who are trained to pass titles from one people to the next.
Yep.
It's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff.
But you don't have to go at it alone. We're here to help you. So again, like we said in the last video, drop some terminology in the comments. Let us know what terms you hear that you think are funny, odd, make no sense whatsoever. We'll tackle it in another video. But in the meantime, hit that like and subscribe button for us. And follow us on all social media. You can find me at Realtor Regan.
And you can find me, B. Quinn Realtor. And we'll catch you next time for some more exciting podcasts.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.